Hello, it's been about a year since I did my last videos and I keep getting questions and comments about the water separation and people wanting the plans and the measurements. The first thing I want to say is that this is only a homemade setup. It's not professional. It's just that I have produced a lot of copper with it, and it's been quite successful, especially now I've got the vibrating screen as well. They both work in conjunction with each other. But I'm going to give you a few measurements and show you a few details. First thing I'm going to show you is the bend. The bend on the water chute is important because I can alter the slope of the water chute and keep the output for the granulator and the input for the water separation at the same height all the time, because it's just slotted together and it swivels. So I'm just going to take it out and show you how it slots in. It's as simple as that. It's just made up of a household pipe and it just slots together. Obviously you can see it in the full video. Simple as that. Now the first section of the sluice is made up of just household tubing, what you would use for a toilet, or as the Americans would say, something like a restroom, where you go and do your business. Now that is outside diameter is 110 millimeters. All I've done is cut it down the length, and then I heated it up and opened it out to what shape I needed. The bend that I made is the first attempt. You could call it a prototype. Maybe in the future, if I made another one, I would make it without cutting it open. I would keep it as tubular, because the water has a tendency to shoot over the top unless you modify it like I've done. The main modification is the extra banking that I've riveted on, that you can see, because like I said, the water was going over the top. And then on the inside there's a piece of plastic that directs the water up onto the banking. Now the second purpose of this corner is to combat what you would call surface tension for water. Now surface tension is where the copper will look like it's floating on top of the water. It's something, like I say, it's called surface tension. You can research it, but it does happen. You don't want your copper floating away on bubbles and what have you. So this bend helps it. It comes round and the copper stays low, the water goes high, and it forces the copper underneath the surface. Then the water folds over onto the top, and it doesn't produce that many bubbles, so that helps as well. Now the first measurement is the first part of the slope or the chute, and I'm doing these measurements in centimeters and millimeters. So sorry if you're American and use inches, but you can easily convert it. To the centre of the bend, it's 63 centimeters. Just move my tripod out of the way and I'll show you the next measurement. Right, the main slope down to the aluminium tray is 104 centimeters. And then the aluminium tray is 100 centimeters long, all the way to the output. There's a slight height on the output of 5 centimeters. That allows the water to accumulate into a pool. It just helps slow things down and settle the copper. Any loose copper that's still heading towards the waste tray will get trapped in the water pool, hopefully. I also have this tray here just as a safety thing to make sure I have this below the water line, so the copper will have to go underneath the water to escape. Sometimes you think you're losing copper, but it could be aluminium that's copper coated. So it's not 100% thing. When people ask, do you get 100% recovery? Maybe you don't, but you don't know whether it's aluminium or not. You always have to account for some cheap wire. Right, at the start of the water aluminium tray, the water sluice, copper sluice, is 9 centimeters wide, and at the end of the sluice it's 28 centimeters wide. The height at the end is 27 centimeters high. Let me just back up so I can get a full picture of what I'm filming. But at the start of the water sluice it's 18 centimeters. Like I said, with a bend, and it's sloping, and you can adjust the slope. It's just stud on these stands. To adjust the slope, you just move the stands either way, which allows it to make it steeper or less steeper. It's just a simple way of altering and adjusting your steepness of your angle. You have to remember, if you're building your own system, you've got to build into it adjustment for fine tuning, because fine tuning can make a hell of a difference. The smaller pipe for supplying the water from the header tank is 40mm outside diameter, and then that's connected to stainless. I can't remember what the diameter for that is. Obviously it's the inside diameter or whatever. You just have to get something as close as possible and make it fit. Right, the header tank is an old beer keg, and it's 40 centimeters high, and the diameter is 38 centimeters. Same again, the pump. You will get a pump. It's better to get one bigger than what you need. You can always have an overflow. Sorry. You can always have an overflow that will go straight into your tank or even into your water filter. So it's always best to get a bigger pump as you can manage. And the pump is, I bought it over 10 years ago probably, and they probably don't do this one anymore, but it's 100 litres per minute, and it's a maximum height of 6 meters. So that's the pump bought in the UK. So like I say, mine is only just big enough. In fact, I had to reduce the outflow for the granulator by putting a smaller pipe in it, just to allow the water to rise high enough so it'll go into the water filter. I can't stress how important having a decent water filter, because as I've said in my previous videos, if you haven't got clean water, you haven't got clean copper when it dries. It will dry dirty and tarnished. It's very important, and I'm not giving measurements for that. It's just what you see. It's whatever you can get your hands on, scrap wires, trays, and make your own. You just feed it through. And kitchen towel. If you don't use kitchen towel and your mesh is too thick, it will just pour through in one spot and it won't filter the water. I stagger my kitchen kitchen towel filter, so it doesn't just go straight through the mesh. It will hit the towel and then go across to the mesh. And even when the tray is blocked up, it's still filtering water because it acts as a settlement pond. So you just can't beat having a water filter. You need one. The big water tank, same again. The bigger you can get, the better, because you need to have quite a lot of water in your tank to fill your system up and still have enough to run your pump. So this is my size. It's only just big enough. It works fine, but I could do with a bigger one. If I found one, I could link it at the side or whatever, but at the moment I've managed with this one. 52 high centimeters by 67 wide and 49 deep. And I don't mean the depth of the water, I mean deep as in how far back it goes. The pump, I've already shown you the specification. There it is. That's been brilliant. It's lasted at least about 10 years. It still stops every year that I start separating copper. Can't think of anything else. That's basically the system. Just remember, this is for separating car looms, which is very thin wire. Depends on what you're separating, and it works for me, but it's not perfect. I've had some comments where people have tried different things of separating copper, but it hasn't always worked for them. It's just a case of persisting and adjusting. And the main adjustment when separating copper is the screen for the granulator. Now, my screens that I prefer are two different sizes. These two, one's 1.5 millimeters and the other one is 2.5. I prefer the 2.5 because I've got the vibrating screen. It's a lot quicker, it does the job. It leaves a little bit of plastic in with the copper, but it comes out in the vibrating screen. If you haven't got a vibrating screen and you want to do a sluice to separate it, I would recommend the 1.5 because it does the job and it will come out very clean, as long as you just have a decent technique. The way I do it is, in my previous videos you'll see this tray full of copper. I drag it up to the narrowest point where the water's flowing as quick as it gets, stick my hand in. It'll still be quite dirty, there'll be dirt in it that's settled in the copper and there'll be bits of plastic. I just fish about with it here, wash it a couple of times backwards and forwards and just scoop it out. And with a 1.5 screen you can do that easily. If you use the 2.5, then I would recommend building one of these, which you've seen in previous videos, but I have already modified it. The vibrating screen, and I put a new screen in it. I've used the microwave doors that I've shown in the granulator video. I've sealed it all up. It's turned out a lot quieter than what it was before. I've done another modification. There was a empty space in here. I filled that full of insulation, so that's quietened it down as well. But with the 2.5 screen in the granulator and this vibrating screen, this does the job. It's my preferred setup, not just for copper wire but for a lot of other stuff. This year I'm having an experiment. Funnily enough, I did have a possible troll saying that I should burn my copper wire. I don't burn copper wire, but years ago when I started, maybe 12 years ago, I used to burn the plugs, and I ended up with tubs and tubs of burnt plugs, which this year I've been sorting out. You can see how I sort the plugs out normally with the tin plugs video I've got, and that's what I'm doing this year. I'm going to granulate all this, which is quite a lot, and then it'll be going through the screen. I've got loads of comments, people saying I'm going to try this, I'm going to do that, like that my water separation system is the first thing that I've ever done and I just knocked it together. But really I've spent a long time trying different things. The first thing was a bucket of water, thinking that the plastic would float, but it didn't, and that set me off to build this. This was a vibrating table. You got to remember that 12-15 years ago they didn't have a lot of videos on YouTube showing you how to build a dry separation table, so I got it completely wrong. I spent weeks, probably months, drilling 1mm holes at 45 degrees into a sheet of aluminium. All these holes are all hand drilled, and then I fitted this table onto the top of my vibrating table and expected it to work. It was a complete failure. I just didn't understand how the separation table worked. Now I do understand, but it's complicated and you need a lot of hardware like separate fans and whatever, and a lot of noise and a lot of room. So I haven't gone with dry separation, and even the dry separation tables on YouTube still most of them end up going through a vibrating screen anyway. So I prefer the wet separation. This is one of my first sluices that I made. I've cut a lot of parts off it, but this was on the vibrating table, and I thought that the copper would vibrate to the bottom of the plastic, go down the chute and out of a hole here. That didn't work. When you've got wet copper, it just clogs up. It won't travel. I modified it again, but it still didn't work. And I moved on to this sluice, which is a lot smaller than what I'm running now. Quite successful, but still the water flow and the flow of the waste plastic didn't quite go out of them pipes as well as I thought. So I ended up with this one, what I've got now. Just a little indication of the development that it takes to build your own system. You've got to enjoy doing it and enjoy trying different things to succeed. I think I've covered just about everything on copper separation, but I'm sure you'll have questions, and I hope that you'll ask them, because I don't know what you need to know until you ask me. I can advise you about the granulator blades or the screens, or what kind of copper you're separating and what screens you might need. I don't know, but if you've got any questions, just ask, and if I can help in any way, I will. If you ask things like, is this system for sale, or how much it is, or can I come and sort your system out, or is my granulator for sale, then the answer is no. I can't answer that, because I don't sell anything. I don't go and travel and visit people, and I only answer questions on YouTube, so everybody can see the answers and the information. The people that ask me for my email address or want to speak to me on WhatsApp, you're wasting your time, because I don't have WhatsApp, and there's no reason for you to ask questions that you're not going to share the information with someone on YouTube. That's the whole idea of these videos, is to help everybody. So thanks for watching, and if you appreciate me sharing my knowledge and experience, then leave me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time if I make another video.